Graham, change management, one of your favourite subjects. I mean, you are a change manager as a coach, but what would be your kind of key giveaways to help people successfully manage change?
Sure. Before I go into that, can I just kind of say, in all seriousness, you know, this idea of change, I continually get told that people don't like change. I'm going to stick my neck out and be bold here. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. We are human beings. We are a constant evolution of ourselves. Change is a key and critical part of our existence. What people don't like is the lack of information. They don't like the lack of involvement. They fear that what might happen as a result of this change because of how poorly it's managed. So let me give some thoughts and some skills about how we can manage change more effectively.
Okay.
The ADKAR model, I think, provides us with some really basic, key kind of thought processes as managers and leaders to begin with. So the first one we should look at in the A is the awareness. What that means is, why are we changing? This isn't just for us as managers and leaders. This is for the masses.
Do you know, I think that's one of the biggest key issues is when people don't understand why the change is happening.
So that's what people don't like, Teresa. So they don't like knowing why we're doing it. They don't like knowing what's in it for them.
Not knowing.
They don't like not knowing the outcome. They don't know the impact. These are all the things that they don't like. And this is where, and we'll come to it a little bit more, if you look at the Kubler-Ross, all right, change curve, what's the first 2 points in the Kubler-Ross? Shock and denial. The first point is, oh my gosh, we're changing. The second point is, we don't need to change because we failed to give people the appropriate information on both those counts. So hold on to that thought. The second one, of course, is desire. If people don't have the information about what's in it for them, what's in it for them, or why it will make them feel good about themselves, why would you bother? Why would I commit to a change that has absolutely nothing in it for me? So we need to communicate and make sure people understand, because people will do stuff because they want to, remember. So we have to make sure there's a desire to change for the people that are going to fundamentally implement the change for us.
Okay, so what's in it for me?
Then, of course, how? How are we changing? How are we going to do it? As in, when, what's the process? What am I doing? What's my involvement? All these things, how are we going to change? What does that change look like? Do we have the ability? Do I have the skills and the knowledge? Do we have the resources and the time? That's ability. All of these things that people will want to know before they agree to that change.
Yeah, and I think with that as well, it's about giving people the opportunity, isn't it? To kind of to be involved, to use their skills and behaviours, that kind of confirmation that actually I can do this, I've got this, I've been provided with the skills, or I've already got the skills and the knowledge, and now I have an opportunity to apply it and see the difference that makes.
Yeah, well, to feel in control of it a little bit, or have the ability to influence it. And very often the fear, remember, we're negatively wired. So it's not about the change. The fear is it a threat to us? We don't embrace saber-toothed tigers. We either fight them or run from them. And it's exactly the same with the lack of understanding with change. The reinforcement element is really important. And that's if you're going to sustain change, because people will default back to the way they do stuff. And too often we see far too much change happening all at the same time. So what we get is we run down a particular path and then something new happens, something shiny, but that's what they see. And then of course we're changing something, and we fail to finish things off. 85% of each and every one of our days requires no conscious thought process. If we're going to fundamentally change the way we do stuff, then we have to reinforce it. We have to sustain the change in behaviours, the change in thinking, the change in attitudes, for it to become a new way of working.
Become a new habit. And I think part of that is the monitoring and the feedback again of, you know, this is working with the evidence to show that this is a positive change.
For sure. Let me talk you through, I think there's four key areas that I would give to leaders and managers to focus on to help people through the change process. So I'm going to link this up with Kubler-Ross, and I would encourage anybody to look at the Kubler-Ross model, very well researched. So the very first 2 stages, as I said earlier, of any potential change, people will go into shock and there'll be a denial. We don't need this. How do managers best deal with that? Information. Information, information, information. All right, have as much information for the people as possible.
Well, because as much certainty as you give me, I will benefit from.
Correct. So make sure that you've thought about the questions, all of the questions that people might ask, and don't start to talk about it until you have as many answers as possible. There'll still be a bit of shock, but maybe you can move past that and certainly eliminate or minimize any denial because you have the information. Now, so we enter into the curve. We go a little bit deeper now because there will be frustration. The frustration was because I'm having to do things differently. Things don't look like they used to be. I'm not getting the same feedback. I don't enjoy this as much. How do we do that? Support. Provide support. That means if people are doing things different, make sure you support them with the right training. Make sure they have the right tools. Make sure they have the right time. Make sure they have the right physical and emotional support.
I was going to say maybe that could even just be spending some extra time with your people,
For sure.
letting them share their concerns and their frustrations and listen.
Support them through listening. Imagine that. Now, be careful here with the Kubler-Ross, because as we turn at the bottom, all right, and we're starting to embed change, this is the point when we lose people. And I mean physically lose people or mentally and emotionally lose people. Same thing. Once they're no longer with you, you've got yourselves a problem.
Okay.
So it's important that as we start to reduce the frustration, because we're supporting people, they feel supported, they're going to need direction. It's our job as managers and leaders to provide that direction and to keep challenging people to the way we do stuff. Now, speed, I think, is critical here. If we want to get people and implement change quickly, then we need to focus on a sort of an intrinsic value as leaders and the people as speed. What I mean by speed is do things quickly, learn quickly, iterate quickly, fail quickly, change quickly. The quicker we do that, the better we'll have direction, the more direction people will have. And remember, when something's successful, tell them.
I was going to say, it's very much another communication one, isn't it? Because you're getting that constant feedback. If you're doing that, iterative process, and you're plotting or you're being aware of the change, having that feedback is going to help the communication.
And it will help with the direction, and it will help with momentum. Talking of momentum, the last one, this is about the embedding it. Okay, remember, people will go backwards quickly. If we need to embed the change, we need to continue. We need to reinforce. How do we do that as managers and leaders? Encouragement. You're doing a great job. Use data, use evidence. Look, this is what's happening. As a direct result of the changes and your contribution to it, this is how positive it is.
I think I read that that period should be for a minimum of 3 months, because that's how long it takes for a change, a new way of working, to become the normal way of working.
I haven't read it, but I think that would be absolutely solid advice. What I do need is the 2 areas that you need to be really critical of, and this is my experience coaching, and certainly through change. and that is speed and in stress. As speed increases and the introduction of stress, people resort back to the way they've done stuff. So being an expert is about continually, trying something, continually doing it, continually learning. Encourage that, encourage it constantly, because the more people trust their ability to do things the new way, under pressure or at speed, the more likely to choose the new way.
Okay, so you'd say understand the change, plan the change, communicate the change, and then implement the change.
Yes, I would. I think what you're describing there is the 4 fundamental principles, and they're really, really solid principles as well. I think interestingly, when you look at the original sort of research on that, the implement the change and the communicate are set as like 3rd and 4th points. I know we've had the discussion. We need to communicate all the time. So I think, although it's at the end, I understand why, because I think it's about the feedback loop. But I would say communicate is the key at every single level of change management.